Hello everybody, I'm Rashad Salamat and we're on the move. Nothing can stop the slide. The Kospi, the biggest faller in Asia, despite some positive news on Europe and the US. Plotting a takeover, Alibaba in talks on a joint venture plan over Yahoo. And a deal's reached on a new Greek rescue, but it comes with a warning. Well, it's another day where we're seeing just red arrows right here across the Asia-Pacific. John's here monitoring the situation. And what's behind it today, John?
Well, the same concerns, debt. And clearly also had, in fact, comments from Bill Gross overnight from PIMCO talking about this. In fact, clearly like a bad diabetic on the verge of a heart attack. That was his comment about this market, clearly below the norm. Again, the global economy faces recession. That's the PIMCO's Bill Gross warning. Nikkei, you can see, off by 2% today. Canon, for example, one of the biggest decliners, in fact, the biggest index decliner. Its exporting story is a reason for that. Top issues to the wider benchmark, off by 2%. The Kospi, of course, returned after a day off, therefore it's feeling the brunt of yesterday and today, off therefore by 5%. Quick glance at these, you can see there, the car makers had their figures out in the US overnight, their sales for the last month, and I can tell you that Nissan did pretty well, but look at the share price reaction, up by 25% in the sales, beating estimates. Toyota was down by 17% for its sales for the last month in September. Tight supplies of the Prius hybrid, the reason for that. And Honda was off by 8% for its sales against. Therefore, the shares there being brutalized today, albeit Nissan did pretty well, but still being hit hard. They are, of course, exporters, and the strong yen is a concern. The Finance Minister, Jun Azumi, talking about an hour ago, he talked about that the yen is too high for exporters and is hurting them, and that Japan's stocks are excessively weak. That's the comments of the Finance Minister on Japan, and the reaction to therefore is pretty clear to see. Kospi there returning for its day off yesterday, and of course China is closed for the whole week for Golden Week. Samsung, a key exporter there, is the biggest index drag, if you like. This was heavy weighting on the Kospi, down again by 5%. Also Hyundai Motors there doing pretty badly as well. Even though sales rose, they missed estimates in the US, for the shares there off by 5%, but again also returning from its day off, therefore catching up with yesterday's declines for the Korean story. Another go on the screen if we go down under. Australia, Singapore, also first of all Taiwan and Malaysia. Look at that, all those markets there showing declines. Malaysia, they're holding up, but Singapore there awash with exporters, is down by currently 2%. Australia though, today is rates day, of course. For Australia, set to be on hold. Shares there down by 1.2%, well below 3,900 now. The key reason you can see today, the balance figures, business figures, are quite encouraging. Shares therefore not as bad as the rest, but off there by 0.5%. More the blow of Dan Carter not being fly half, perhaps, is the sentiment for the World Cup. There you go, that's the markets which are today. Second day of this fourth quarter rather, and pretty tough.
Thanks, John. Right, let's get you back to that breaking news we had a bit earlier on. Shares of Yahoo on the up in the after-hours session. People familiar with the matter saying the company's been approached for a possible takeover by Alibaba, Silver Lake, and Digital Sky Technologies. Mia's here with me. Now, Mia, we had Jack Ma saying just the other day that he was interested, very interested. Of course, I'd be interested if I had the money.
Exactly. Lots of interest from him specifically. The interesting thing here is we called both Silver Lake as well as Yahoo. They both said they have no comment. Keep in mind the deal is at preliminary stages. But what's interesting here is anyone that, Alibaba has about Yahoo has about 40% of Alibaba, and anyone that wants to make sure that they're going to buy Yahoo has to make sure that Alibaba is on board. Take a listen to what Jack Ma has to say about this potential coming together of the three companies.
We are interested in getting the whole.
The whole?
Yeah. Whole piece.
The whole piece.
Yeah.
Of your Yahoo China stake, or the whole piece of all of Yahoo?
Whole piece of Yahoo. Yahoo China is already ours, right? It's already in my pocket.
Right.
So clearly, Jack Ma having a nice laugh over this entire situation, but has expressed his interest. Now, you also have to keep in mind that there is many different foreign ownership issues if these three companies do come together. So that's something that we're going to be watching out for. Jerry Yang, the co-founder of Yahoo, has mentioned that he has received multiple inquiries regarding a potential deal, but still no word from Yahoo whether or not they have proceeded down the road with these talks.
Right, well, I guess this is one which is going to run, well, it's a developing story, to say the least.
And we'll have more on that throughout the day.
Yeah, Mia Saini there with a look at Silver Lake, Alibaba, and Russia's Digital Sky Technology discussing a possible move for Yahoo. Right, well, Japan's leading electronics companies are trying to reinvent themselves as demand for televisions and other consumer goods falls, and the strength of the yen makes it almost impossible to turn a profit. They're showing off their latest wares at this year's CEATEC conference outside Tokyo. Mike Fern is there too. Mike, what's the theme?
Well, Rish, here at CEATEC this year, the theme is cutting-edge technologies that shape the future. That could be anything from smart cities to wafer-thin computers to massive 3D glasses-less television screens. All the usual Japanese names are here: Hitachi, Toshiba, Panasonic, a lot of people from Taiwan and China also. But also we've got Intel here with their first ever booth at CEATEC Japan, and I'm joined by Hiral Giwala, the marketing director at Intel. Now, I go to a lot of conferences at this venue, and what I've noticed even before the quake was that foreign companies were staying away from Japan. So why is Intel here this year, and what's it showing off at its booth?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for having me. Intel has been with in Japan for a long time. It's not like we are new to Japan. We have a president over here, Kaz-san. He is going to be doing the keynote today. And we are here because we believe that this is where a lot of innovation does happen. Intel is a technology company. We are spending a lot of energy on developing new technologies, and we see customers in Japan that breathe life into our technology and take it to market in a really good way. So we are committed to Japan. That's why we're here.
Devices are getting smaller and lighter. We're moving away from flash to storing everything on cloud. Is that a threat to Intel, being the world's biggest chip maker, a major flash memory producer?
Well, we are also a major producer of microprocessors that power the cloud. Right? We have a line of Xeon processors. So every time you use your mobile devices to access information from the cloud, what you're really doing is using a lot of Xeon servers. So we embrace the cloud. We have products that go from handhelds to laptops to servers and in other markets.
You go to conferences around the world, and there's all the talk at the moment of a debt crisis in Europe, a debt crisis in the US, a debt crisis in Japan, tightening in China. How is Intel shaping its marketing focus to deal with the new realities of global economies?
Well, like you said, Intel is a global company. We have, in the first 2 quarters of this year, announced record earnings. We are in our quiet period right now, so I cannot really comment on how we are going to be doing in Q3. It's another 2 weeks or so. We'll be announcing our earnings. You'll see, what we have to say. I think, yes, there is slight, I think we had mentioned weakness in U.S. consumer a long time ago, but it's a global company. We're seeing a lot of growth in emerging markets, and that's why we are around the world participating in our marketing efforts.
So what are the real cool products that people can see if they come here?
Okay, so in the Intel booth, we have our core business that Intel is famous for, which is our microprocessors that go into PCs. We've evolved the PC into what we call ultrabooks. They're really thin, sexy, light, easy to use laptops, but we call them ultrabooks. So you'll see a lot of new ultrabooks from a lot of Japanese OEMs in our booth. Beyond ultrabooks, we have an effort in education. So you'll see our products that let students use technology to become smarter, and so how Intel technology, Intel architecture helps kids with their education efforts. We have products around the health services. So in fact, if you go to the 10:30 keynote that Kaz-san is doing this morning, there is a demo on robotics and how technology helps the handicapped people to have a better life. Beyond that, we are in other embedded products. So we have this thing called the digital display, where you go and have a completely different retail shopping experience using Intel technology. So those are the kind of products you'll see in the Intel booth.
Great. Hiral Giwala, Intel Marketing Director, thanks very much for joining us at CEATEC here just outside Tokyo. Rish, back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Mike. Right, we're going to have a look at Indian futures because they just started their session. We had a decline of nearly 2% on Monday. This is what we have against that right now, and I can tell you that we're anticipating more declines. Nifty 1.3% lower at the moment in the futures contract.